Whether you broke up with them or they broke up with you, it doesn't matter. Either way, the relationship is over. And there's stuff that needs to be learned. Things that you need to learn about yourself in order to not repeat the same cycle again. Watch this video for this information so that your next relationship is successful. Hi friends, I'm glad to be back today. And today I'm going to be talking specifically about the things that you need to know to move on after a breakup with a borderline. And how to make your life a lot better, how to understand yourself, and how to really get to understand who you are so that your next relationship will be something that's successful, powerful, and positive in your life. The first thing that you want to do is you want to focus on you. You want to focus on how to be better than you were yesterday. And why I bring this up is that oftentimes when people are breaking up with someone with borderline personality disorder, the first thing is to read all the books on understanding BPD. Okay, reading all the books, reading all the literature, and I understand that being educated is key, but oftentimes we're not looking at ourselves, okay? We're not focusing on what we need to do to be better than we were yesterday. Because in order to not repeat the same cycle, we have to understand who we are, how we got into the relationship to begin with, because that's key. Okay, because remember, if you were really emotionally and mentally, physically all healthy, you wouldn't have entered a relationship with someone who wasn't as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so a lot of times when we define someone with borderline, it's easy to research that and to really focus on that specific condition instead of focusing on us and why we got in the relationship in the first place. Because I think oftentimes for many of us who have entered relationships with people who suffer from BPD, the attention that they gave us, the attention that they give you, was very powerful. Perhaps you didn't get that much attention in the past, perhaps that you felt like they were very loving, and you weren't feeling the control or anything like that until later on down the road. And so you have to ask yourself, why is it that you needed that much attention? Why were you craving that type of attention? Because when we understand that, we realize that we too have to work on ourselves to understand exactly who we are and why we got into this relationship in the first place. The second thing that's important is that you can only help yourself. You can't help somebody that doesn't want your help. And I think this is very powerful, and I want you to really think about what I just said. Because oftentimes when we get into a relationship and there's codependency present, we have a tendency of wanting to fix other people, right? We have a tendency of wanting to fix them even though they might not want fixing. And so the only person that we can fix is ourselves, because that's who we have control over. We have control over ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally, and that's something that's very important to remember. And really important is that our issues have to be dealt with by ourselves, right? Otherwise, if we get in the way and try to parent or change someone, we're actually getting in the way of their own personal growth. No matter how you feel they need to grow or not, the point is that they have to feel that way, okay? Because otherwise you're trying to live their life for them. And one, that's not possible, and two, that's not justified. Now, one of the things that I find, though, is that often when people want to tell the other person that they believe that they have borderline personality disorder, they feel like they're going to get some sort of medal of honor, and this person's going to be like, oh, thank you so much for telling me about this. I'm going to make these changes. I'm going to seek therapy. It's going to be great. Well, I'm telling you that's not going to happen, okay? Very rarely, if ever, is somebody going to be happy and open-armed about hearing something negative or painful or frustrating about themselves. Okay, so remember, if you're going to tell someone that you believe that they have the symptoms and signs of BPD, that's okay. Remember that you only do this in a loving way, okay? It's not to be vengeful. It's not to be angry, okay? And if you want to express that you have done this research and you think this, because you can't diagnose it, but you think this, that's fine. But remember, it's probably not going to be well received, and understand that they might not ever speak to you again anyway, okay? Because remember, if somebody's telling you something challenging and difficult to deal with, you're probably not going to be loving on it, and it might take a long time to see the validation of that comment after you've actually done the personal work So don't expect anything immediately, and really don't expect anything at all. If you're going to say something, do it out of the kindness of your heart because you care, not to be mean, not to throw stones, but just because it's another human being that deserves the knowledge that you think is honestly true. The third thing that I want to talk about is just because you don't have borderline personality disorder doesn't mean that you're emotionally healthy. And what I mean by that is oftentimes when we're in a relationship with someone who has the symptoms and signs of borderline, we have a tendency of looking at them as the problem, okay? When in reality, we have to step back and realize, what have I brought into this relationship as well that's not healthy, okay? That's emotionally draining. And what got me into this relationship in the first place, okay? So I want you to begin to take some time. I don't want you to rush in any relationship. I don't want you to rush to start dating. We need to not bring those Louis Vuitton trunks of baggage into the next relationship. So what we have to do is we have to go through the luggage, the baggage, all that stuff, and figure out what you need to deal with, what you need to deal with now, and how to deal with the other stuff so that it doesn't come up in another relationship. See, one of the things that's really big to understand, and one of the things that we usually have as part of our baggage, is we don't create proper boundaries. We don't even know what proper boundaries are in relationships, okay? So healthy, proper boundaries, that's why we have codependency in relationships. We also don't even understand what unconditional love is, okay? Because many of us were raised in households where mom and dad gave us love based on conditions. Okay, if you make good grades, I'll give you a pat on the back, I'll buy you a gift, you'll get a car, whatever. If you do this for me, I'll love you. If you don't do this for me, I'm going to give you the silent treatment, I'm going to hate on you. And so many of us were raised in unhealthy family dynamics. Okay, and so we need to be aware of that, and we need to begin to understand how to, for the first time, unconditionally love ourselves, not based on the successes we've had and hating on ourselves for the failures that we've done. It's about unconditional love. And in order to understand that, because we don't have enough time in this video for me to talk about it, my latest book, The 10-Day Challenge to Live Your True Life, is a book dedicated to anybody coming out of a breakup that knows that there's more to life than what they've been going through, and knows that they're not perfect and they need to figure out who they are to overcome this cycle. And it starts with boundaries, okay? And it starts with boundaries, and it's powerful stuff that can really help you to not fall prey to this cycle again. Because it's not just the person with the borderline that's causing the problems, it takes two to tango, okay? We got in the relationship for a reason, because if we unconditionally loved ourselves, we wouldn't be in this relationship from the get-go, because it wouldn't have worked for us, and we would have seen the red flags on the second date. The fourth thing that I want you to begin to do is to stop placing blame. To stop placing blame on yourself for being in the relationship. Many of us place blame because we said, well, we didn't do anything. We overlooked the red flags. We didn't see them. I don't really think that's necessarily true. I think if you really step back and look at it, you'll say, okay, I saw the red flags, but I didn't act on it. Okay? I thought it would go away. I thought it would get better. I thought these were minor little things that we'll just get over. Okay? And a lot of that comes to the fact that we want everybody to love us. We want everybody to care about us. A bit of that codependency, right? But the big thing is to stop blaming ourselves for not doing anything when there were honest and consistent red flags in this relationship. And remember, one thing is that we don't need to keep blaming ourselves for mistakes made. Instead of blaming ourselves for the mistakes made, we need to learn from the mistakes. Okay? This particular relationship is a huge playing field for you to learn a lot about yourself, okay? This gave you real world information and knowledge to gather to understand, okay, I got in this relationship, there were a lot of red flags, I overlooked them because of this, and that helps you to understand why you got into that relationship in the first place. Very powerful stuff. But it's only powerful if you actually take time to learn from it. If you run into another relationship and repeat it, it becomes a life cycle, and oftentimes that leads to a life of a lot of regret. The fifth thing that I want you to think about is to use this experience to learn and grow instead of harboring anger and resentment. I know many of you right now are like, hey, Ashley, it's still really fresh, okay? I'm not like going to be kumbaya and giving hugs to my ex. Okay, I get that. You might never give hugs to your ex, but what I'm saying is that the situation you were in is very powerful. A lot of us want to see it because we're angry because we think that this person was doing this stuff to us. But in reality, if you think about it, it's a two-way street. We were allowing them to do this stuff to us, okay? Oftentimes when we're in these relationships, we feel as though that person is like causing all this pain to us, okay? Like they're doing all this stuff to us to ruin our life and to make us feel horrible. But remember, when somebody is acting out and doing things like that, they have to be feeling very upset and sad and angry inside. Okay? So really think about that. Because when you can kind of step back and you don't have so much anger and it's not so fresh, we begin to see it for what it truly is. A learning experience, okay? And when we let go of that addictive feeling toward the borderline, that codependent feeling toward the borderline, all of a sudden we begin to see the reveals from the relationship. Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. But it takes you to let go of that anger and resentment. Okay? And in order to do that, we have to step back out of that relationship and say, okay, I'm upset about what happened, but it's a two-way street. Okay, I stayed in it very long. I stayed in it longer than I should have. But what did I learn from it? Because every relationship has a learning curve to it. Okay, every relationship provides us fertile ground to learn about ourselves, even if it's painful. Okay, and the more painful the relationships, if we stop the cycle, the more we learn about ourselves. So for some of you, it's too fresh right now. Maybe watching this video again later on down the road, after it's not so fresh, could actually probably help you to overcome some of that resentment. And realizing that anger and resentment toward other people cannot be compartmentalized. Okay? That anger and resentment gets into everything. It permeates everything, and it causes us a lot of pain and agony in our life. And so we have to forgive and let go. We have to forgive them. But we also have to forgive ourselves for being in the relationship as well. Number 6, I think many of us have heard this. I've changed. The famous last words, okay? Oftentimes when we break up with somebody, especially if somebody's suffering with borderline personality disorder, there's like a little dance that happens, right? We have a tendency of breaking up and getting back together, and breaking up and getting back together. And if one person has agreed that they have some stuff to work on, the first thing to come out of someone's mouth is, I've changed, okay? Yeah. Change takes time. I haven't seen real consistent change take less than 1 solid year. Okay, a solid year of consistency, of being solid every day, consistent in effort, time, word, and deed. So if somebody's telling you that they've changed, they need to start going to seek therapy, maybe group therapy sessions as well, group counseling, but actually working to understand themselves, doing the personal work that's needed, and taking the time away from the relationship to actually get it together and focus on them, because for somebody to really change, they need to take their personal time to make that happen. I took 1 year off. So my last relationship a long time ago, before I ever got married, I took a solid year off. And I got to know who I was. I got to understand my situation. I got to understand that I didn't have any boundaries. This was, 18 and a half years ago, and I realized that I didn't unconditionally love myself. There was all these things that I was bringing into the relationship, right? And I might not have had BPD, but I had my issues, okay? And I had to get right with that. And so whether or not they're telling you they've changed or you telling them that you've changed, okay? Change takes solid time, and I haven't seen it take less than a year. And it's about being consistent and dedicated to understanding oneself. Because if you don't understand oneself and you don't deal right with you, you're not coming into the next relationship as you. You're coming in as something else, okay? You're coming in as something that you've created that's not honest, it's not authentic, it's not real. And you can't expect somebody to come into a relationship with you who's honest, authentic, and real unless you're on that same vibrational level and you've done the same amount of work. And it takes time and it takes effort, and nothing happens overnight. Last but not least, it's a good idea to work with someone to find who you are after a breakup of this magnitude. Okay? When we're breaking up with someone with BPD, it's a lot more extreme than a regular breakup. Okay? Emotions are running high. There's a lot going on. And in order to not keep returning to the same cycle and getting back together and breaking up, it's good for you to actually find someone that you can talk to, a therapist, LPC, a life coach, a psychologist that can help you to understand your identity, okay? To help you to find yourself, what makes you tick, to understand unconditional love, to help you understand creating healthy boundaries and realizing the codependency that's present in the last relationships and why you stuck in it even though there were red flags, okay? Because once you find unconditional love for yourself, and you realize the value of what I'm talking about, it's not egotistical, okay? It's not, oh, I'm so great. It's about understanding and loving yourself no matter what, okay? And realizing that you have to be there for yourself. And it's not about the triumphs and the failures. It's about you as a human being, as a spirit, as a soul that deserves to be loved. But in order to be loved, you have to love yourself first, okay? And once you find it within yourself to love yourself unconditionally, you won't accept anything less than that from anybody else. Okay, and that would end the cycle of a negative relationships. That ends the cycle of abusive relationships. That ends the cycle of the relationships that no longer work, because if you unconditionally love yourself, you're not looking for somebody to love you because you don't love you. You're not looking for somebody to fill the void that you're not feeling for yourself. All of a sudden, you're in this healthy place in your life, right? Where you love you and you care about you and you love who you are, no matter what. And all of a sudden that vibrational level changes. And when you enter into a relationship, you will see the red flags very quickly, and you will not waste time with what you realize in a person that hasn't dealt with the situation that they need to deal with. We can only enter into a relationship with someone who's willing to take responsibility for their actions as long as we're willing to take responsibility for our actions. We can't ask somebody to do something that we're not willing to do. Okay? And that's straight up. And I know that many of you out there want the borderline to get treatment, want them to get help, but the thing is, that's up to them, okay? That's up to them in their life. That's their choice. That's their responsibility, okay? You can't get in the way of them and their responsibility because that's not fair. That's not your life. Focus on you. You have the ability to make the changes you need. You have the ability to make the steps and the changes to making your life powerful and to end this painful cycle. And it's time for you to do that. And so I know that it can be difficult after this relationship to send loving thoughts to the person that just broke up with you or vice versa. But it's really not about them, and it's never really been about them, right? It's really been about you learning you. And this specific relationship that you went through, no matter how painful, for some of you, extremely painful, okay? Brought you down to your knees painful. For you specifically, this was a learning tool for you to learn. And I know it feels really painful right now and it feels really raw right now, but it's up to you to learn from this and to take this into the next level of your life and really hold this sacred to figure out what makes you tick, who you are, and how you can change the cycles of your life to create the unconditional love within you to find what you need later on once you've gotten right in here and find someone else that's also gotten right in here too. I hope this video has helped you, and I hope you can share this with your family and friends and anybody that might be going through a breakup like this, because it's a very painful process and there needs to be some word of encouragement and some honesty around this situation. And I believe that this video provides that. If you also like the video, please give us a thumbs up because it helps us figure out we're on the right track. And any comments and suggestions that you would like to make, please add those in the comment section below. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do, because it's awesome and important. And we appreciate the family and the community that we've created here. You have a voice. You have amazing truths that you can share with our community. And please do that because people learn from one another. I learn from you, and I appreciate you. Thank you. And don't forget to continue to live your true life.